Toucan birds are perhaps one of the strangest looking animals due to their comically large bills and colourful exterior. Now they seem as if they are these mythical creatures that have been conjured up by dreams or fantastical ideas. However, this unique and visually striking bird is very real and comes in a variety of different species, making it a great drawing exercise. So with that being said, hey guys, my name is Matt. Welcome to another video by artandcontext.org where we explore various art related topics, and in today's video we will be learning how to draw the toucan. Now this tutorial is done with a digital device, however all drawing processes are transferable to traditional mediums. Now, as mentioned before, there are various species of toucans to draw inspiration from. However, in this tutorial, we will be learning how to draw the keel-billed toucan. Now, this is a very colorful looking type of toucan, perhaps one of the more common types of toucan species. And the way in which we're going to start is by shaping the toucan. So we can start by establishing the head of a toucan with a very light sketch to define how large the scale of our toucan drawing will be. Now, by doing this, we are defining how large the rest of the toucan drawing will be. So the intention is to lightly sketch the head of the toucan, establishing the main components such as the bill, the eyes, and the head. In doing so, we can then use that as a reference to size out the rest of the body, and once we have established a light sketch of our toucan, we can then proceed to lightly erase our toucan sketch. By doing this, we can use the lightly erased sketch as guidelines to refine the toucan drawing as we proceed, and this is taking us into the next step where we start to refine the toucan sketch. This is where we can now pay attention to the various details of our toucan drawing as we establish them more accurately over the erased sketch lines. Using ghost lines can be a great way to enhance the features of our toucan drawing, and as we shift to the body of our toucan drawing, we will find that the body proportions are not much larger than that of the bill. So this is quite a unique feature in terms of scale of the toucan, and a feature that we want to really capture as accurately as possible. Now at this point, we should have established a drawing of a toucan that resembles its form and scale as accurately as possible. So from here, we can then lightly erase our drawing one last time to make it easier for integrating color, which takes us into the next step, and that is setting the color palette for our toucan. So we want to work from the head of the toucan drawing with the intention of establishing the lighter tonal values first, and in this case we are using the classic keel-billed toucan as a reference for its iconic coloration. So we want to establish the orange hues that are found within the bill and near the eyes of the toucan. This orange hue can be found around the eyes in the bill of the toucan, and as we slowly work in these lighter layers of color, we want to start considering the variations of tonal values that define the warm tones, shifting between oranges and red. So we will find that as we layer these warm tones, we give the toucan drawing a slightly more enriched coloration. With the bill of the toucan, we do want to keep some negative space along the top of the bill, and this will define a quality of highlights reflecting off the hard surface area of the bill. Now the eye of the toucan is black in the center with the blue hue around the eyes, so we want to make sure that we leave some negative space in the eye to suggest highlights within the eyes. As we shift into the body of the toucan, we will find that its feather coat is a combination of black and white. The chest of the toucan will be white, whereas its belly and feathers will be black. We want to make sure that we give tonal variation and texture to the white chest by adding in these little strokes of grey and black to suggest a textural quality within the feathers, and naturally this can shift according to where the shadows are placed, so you do want to bear in mind where your light source is coming from, and this will be an indication of which areas in the white feathers and the black feathers will have darker shadows or illuminated areas. Now as we continue to add in layers of color to the toucan, the idea with these various features is to think about how their tonal values will have variations between light and darker moments, so we always want to remain within the spectrum of the color that we are using. So naturally with the bill, we are working within the spectrum between reds and oranges. However, for the body, we are working within the spectrum of black and white. So adding moments of gray in the white chest and black body feather areas will define this quality of feather-like textures through the integration of little strokes of lines, and by the actual kind of layering effect between lighter and darker tonal values found between those three colors, black, gray, and white. The more you build up these layers of various colors, the more realistic the coats of feathers will start to appear, and this is because the feathers catch light in unique ways that will emphasize their form and shape. As we start to work through the various aspects of the toucan, we can also apply this concept of layering to the bill. Now once again, we want to think about various color values and how this defines tonal variation within the bill. The rest of the body of the toucan will be black in color throughout, but we want to make sure we fill in the toucan completely. However, we really want to make sure that we leave the feet out for now. Again, just focusing on the bill, we do want to make sure that we are aware of the fact that the bill is a hardened surface area, so it will have these cleaner highlights within the areas that are more illuminated, and as we shift down towards the bottom section of the ball that is less exposed to a light source, it will tend to become darker in its red coloration or a more warm and burnt orange. As we work through the Toucan, make sure to spend time on the ball. We really want to have those variations of warm tones that shift from reds to oranges and yellows, and this gives a sense of interaction with that light source and how it illuminates certain areas of the ball. Another important detail to notice is the black mark at the edge of the ball. We also want to make sure we add in moments of lighter tones to suggest that it is once again a hard surface. So it is capable of reflecting light off of that surface, and that is the case for that black spot on the surface area of the ball. Now as we continue, we want to start adding highlights to the black feathers and spending some time on that. So although the body of the Toucan is predominantly covered in black feathers, we still want to add some lighter tonal values within this area. So by doing this, we suggest movement and texture within the black body of feathers. The idea is to add highlights of jagged lines that flow within the form of the body and how the wings rest against the body. So we want to keep these lines quite jagged to suggest a feather-like texture. And in the case of painting or a digital drawing where there is a lot of layering of color, you want to add these lighter layers over the black. However, if you work with a more traditional medium, you will want to make sure you use negative space to represent these highlights. Now we're going to work with the last step, and this is where we start to contextualize the features. So now that we have worked through most of the Toucan drawing, we want to focus our attention on the talons. Now the talons can be predominantly seen as black in coloration, but they do have purple hues, so we can start to represent the talons with these kind of purple and black variations. We also want to make sure that we are representing the correct amount of digits within each talon. A good suggestion is to draw the talons resting on a branch or an object, and in doing this we give more context to how the drawing of the Toucan is actually represented within an environment. This is also helpful to represent the curling motion within the talons, but we can also build up these layers within the talons to suggest highlights and tonal variation within the feet of the Toucan. We can also work in some line work to give some segmentation and definition within the various digits of the talons. So otherwise, take your time with building up some tonal variation as well as adding line work to the talons to suggest segmentation and form within the various digits. Lastly, we can start to add some detailing and color to the branch itself, giving more context to the object upon which the Toucan is actually placed. But again, it's always good to build up layers with natural features, shifting from lighter to darker tonal values. You can keep these marks also quite jagged in terms of texture and how it represents the actual bark within the branch, and you can make sure it moves within that horizontal plane. In doing so, we keep in form with the actual shape of the branch and have a more realistic representation of the branch. But again, make sure you build up these tonal values from lighter colors, maybe lighter greens and browns, and working our way to darker browns. And lastly, you can add some black with line work to emphasize the texture a little further until you have worked through the entire branch. Lastly, make sure you go through your entire Toucan drawing one last time. Remember, we are kind of trying to first establish the general shape with a light sketch. We refine that sketch into identifiable features. As we proceed, we start to build up our colors with lighter tonal values, keeping ourselves in control of the coloring process, and in doing so, working our way to darker tonal values to create a little bit more of an enriched color representation within our Toucan drawing, and just allowing ourselves to have control over the coloring process. And there you have it, guys, how to draw a toucan through a few simple steps, kind of following a process of layering, kind of establishing the shape, working with refining the shape, building up the toucan drawing through a layering process of color, and ultimately just taking our time with each of these steps to have a result of a beautiful and interesting toucan drawing. If you did like this video, please let us know in the comment section below if you are interested in similar or related topics, and you can show your support by liking and subscribing. That helps us to grow the channel, which ultimately enables us to make more art related content for you guys, which we love to do. But otherwise, thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, see you in the next video. Cheers.